Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something many of us love, Korean food, and specifically its health reputation. Our mission really is to understand what's actually going on beneath the surface of those vibrant, seemingly super healthy dishes like bibimbap and all those little side dishes, the banchan. Because, let's be honest, it has this fantastic image, fresh, varied, fermented. It feels healthy just ordering it. But the sources we looked at suggest there might be a bit of a paradox. Are some traditional ways of making this food actually hiding some, let's say, health costs? We want to get you the real story, the nuance.
Yeah, and that healthy reputation is definitely built on a solid foundation. I mean, you've got loads of vegetables, lots of variety, and fermentation, like with kimchi, which is great for gut health. It all
Yeah.
looks good on paper. Bibimbap is the perfect poster child, isn't it? All those colorful toppings. And banchan, the sheer number of vegetable dishes. It really embodies that idea of variety.
Okay, so the base is strong. Healthy ingredients, good principles. But let's zoom in on those banchan, because you mentioned them, and our sources point there too. They look like the healthiest part, all those veggies. So why are they potentially a source of concern? It feels a bit counterintuitive.
Well, it really boils down to how they're prepared to taste good and sometimes to last longer. If you picture a spread of banchan, you'll notice some dishes, maybe the seasoned spinach or some braised mushrooms, glazed potatoes. They often look oily
Hmm.
or shiny.
Right, that glistening look, is that the clue?
That's often the visual cue, yes. The thing is, to get that intense flavor or to preserve them, traditional methods might involve, say, heavy braising, lots of seasoning, maybe glazing. And these techniques, they often rely on ingredients that can pile up.
Pile up how? Like, what are we actually adding?
We're talking about things used pretty liberally across many different banchan dishes. So, number one is soy sauce adds saltiness, umami. Then actual salt. Also, sugar or even corn syrup, sometimes just for balance or that sheen. Vegetable oil for cooking or coating. And importantly, gochujang.
Ah, gochujang. That's in so much Korean cooking. It gives it that kick. What's the issue there? I thought it was mainly chili and fermented soy. Healthy stuff.
It is fermented, which is a plus, but gochujang often gets its thick, sticky texture and balanced flavor from added sweeteners. Think malt syrup, rice syrup, sometimes high amounts of grain powders that act like sugar. So while you get the chili heat and the fermented notes, you're also getting potentially a significant amount of sodium and added sugar in every spoonful.
Okay.
So imagine you have maybe 5 different banchan with your meal. Maybe 4 of them use a good amount of soy sauce, maybe some oil, perhaps a touch of syrup. Those small amounts suddenly start to compound. One source we saw suggested that just between your kimchi and maybe 2 or 3 other seasoned banchan, you could easily hit like 30% or even more of your daily sodium recommendation.
Well, 30% before you even really get to the main part of the meal.
Exactly. That's the potential hidden cost.
So it's a serious trade-off then. You think you're loading up on fiber and vitamins from the veggies, which you are, but you're also getting this unexpected hit of sodium and sugar, which, isn't great long-term for heart health and things like that. It's not just a sprinkle of seasoning. It's kind of baked into the preparation method for flavor.
Precisely. It's about making those vegetables palatable and often preserving them.
Okay, so that covers the seasoning side of things, this sodium and sugar in the banchan prep. But the sources also flagged another issue, lurking in the cooking fat itself, the oil.
That's right. It's a separate but related point. If you look at traditional Korean cooking, the oils typically used are actually quite healthy choices. They tend to be high in unsaturated fats, the good kind, and low in saturated fats.
And which specific oils give it that healthy fat profile traditionally?
You're mainly looking at soybean oil, perilla oil, and sesame oil. Those are key flavor components too. Also, canola and rice bran oil are common. Perilla and sesame oils in particular are really interesting nutritionally.
How so?
Well, perilla oil, for example, is packed with omega-3 fatty acids, sometimes even more than flaxseed oil, which people know for omega-3s. These are those essential fats really important for brain health, heart health. So traditionally, the fats used are actually a benefit.
Okay, that sounds great. But here comes the but, right? This is where we need to think critically, beyond just tradition. What happens in the real world, say at your local Korean restaurant? Costs matter.
Exactly. And this is where the potential substitution risk comes in, driven purely by economics. Perilla oil, high-quality sesame oil, they're not cheap. So the sources raise this concern. What if restaurants, especially smaller places or maybe chains looking to cut costs, switch to a cheaper fat, particularly for things that need a lot of oil, like deep frying or making large batches of banchan.
And is there a specific cheaper oil that's mentioned as the main concern, the one that sort of flips the fat profile from healthy to less healthy?
Yes, the one commonly cited is palm oil.
Ah, palm oil. Okay.
It's everywhere, it's inexpensive, and it's very stable for cooking at high heat, which restaurants like. But the downside is it's much, much higher in saturated fat compared to perilla or soybean oil.
Right.
So if a restaurant swaps out that omega-3 rich perilla oil for palm oil to, say, fry their chicken or prepare some of those oily banchan, you, the customer, are unknowingly losing a significant health benefit, those good unsaturated fats, the omega-3s, and gaining something potentially harmful, the saturated fat.
And you wouldn't necessarily taste the difference in every dish, I imagine.
Probably not, especially if it's mixed with other strong flavors.
That's a really crucial point for you listening. It's not just about food being oily in general. It's about which oil. Losing the good stuff and getting more of the bad stuff, potentially without realizing it.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We've got potentially high sodium and sugar, especially from the banchan preparation methods. And then we have this risk, mainly in restaurant settings, of healthier traditional oils being swapped out for cheaper, high-saturated fat oils like palm oil. So stepping back, looking at the whole picture, is Korean food still a healthy choice overall? Or is that reputation a bit shaky now?
Well, if we look at the comparative angle the sources took, the conclusion is actually quite reassuring, despite these potential issues.
Mm.
A typical Korean meal, think bibimbap with a variety of banchan, is still considered a healthier option compared to some specific common alternatives.
Okay, that comparison is key. What kind of alternatives are we talking about? What did the sources compare it to?
They specifically mentioned two categories: typical Western-style fast food.
Right, burgers, fries, that kind of thing. Exactly. And also, dishes commonly found at what are called mamak stalls, particularly relevant in Southeast Asia.
Mamak stalls.
Yeah.
Okay, for listeners who might not know, what kind of food is typical there? Why is that a useful comparison?
Sure. Mamak stalls often serve Malaysian Indian food. Think things like roti canai, which is a fried flatbread, often served with rich, heavy curries. Sometimes those curries use a lot of coconut milk or ghee, which are high in saturated fat. Or maybe heavily oiled fried noodles, fried rice.
Got it. So generally higher in refined carbs and saturated fats, maybe lower on the fresh vegetable side compared to a Korean meal?
That's generally the profile, yes. So when you compare the Korean meal, even with its potential for high sodium or the risk of less healthy oil, it still usually comes out ahead because of the sheer volume and variety of vegetables you get. You're getting way more fiber, a much wider range of vitamins and minerals from all those different banchan, the kimchi. Plus, the protein source is often leaner, like grilled fish or tofu, compared to deep-fried items or fatty meat cuts you might find in the alternatives.
So the nutritional density, the variety, the fiber, those core strengths still tend to outweigh the potential negatives, especially when put side by side with those other types of meals.
That seems to be the consensus from the sources, yes. The sodium spike might be a concern, but you're getting a lot of nutritional good in return, which you might not get from the fast food or some mama dishes.
Okay, that makes sense. So the big takeaway here seems to be Korean cuisine has a genuinely healthy foundation built on vegetables, variety, and fermentation. Fantastic. But the devil's in the details, isn't it? Particularly in how things are prepared commercially. Knowing about the potential for high sodium and sugar in the seasonings, especially in banchan, and being aware of that oil substitution risk, that gives you, the listener, some power. Maybe you can ask for less sauce, or perhaps you skip the shiniest, most heavily glazed side dishes sometimes.
Right. It's about informed choices.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially when you apply it.
And, this whole discussion about oil, the choice between expensive, healthy perilla oil versus cheap, high-saturated fat palm oil being driven by cost, it does raise a broader question, doesn't it? It makes you wonder if economics can influence something as fundamental as the cooking fat in dishes we think of as healthy. Where else in the restaurant industry, across any cuisine, might similar cost-cutting decisions be happening quietly in the background? What other hidden compromises might be affecting nutritional quality that we're just not aware of? Something for you to think about next time you eat out.